Welcome to the Sharkpreneur Podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Green. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Green is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Green. Today, I've got the good fortune to be interviewing Mick Hunt, host of Mick Unplugged and a recognized leader in modern leadership, purpose, and personal development. His work focuses on helping people and organizations understand their deeper because and transform that into real impact. Mick, thanks so much for joining us.
Seth, thanks for having me, brother.
Our pleasure. So let's go back in time a little bit. How'd you get started?
Man, I always tell people I'm a 10-year-old kid who made a promise to change his mother's life, man. And that's exactly how I got started. Every day of my life from 10 years to today, it's been making sure I deliver upon that promise. And so, getting started was going to college and getting a job, bro. Like, it was that simple. All of my friends, when they graduated, they were going on 20 interviews and whatever. The first offer I got, I said yes. And that happened to be in insurance. And not only could I not spell insurance, I had never sold anything in my life, but I parlayed that into a very successful career, man.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm sure the longer version of that story is in the book somewhere. And how did that moment of that promise you made to mom, how did that kind of evolve into your concept of because?
Yeah. So Seth, high level version of this story, it was Christmas morning when I was 10 and my mom was crying on my bed. Not that we didn't have presents. We had all the presents in the world, right? Like, I grew up in a very nice, financially stable home. But she was crying because she had gone through another night of abuse. And the first 10 years of my life, bro, it wasn't unnormal for me to see my mom physically abused, financially abused, emotionally abused, right? And I knew what those tears meant. And so I told my mom at 10, just leave. Like, I can handle it. I know my father's ego. As long as I stay or my sister stays, like, he'll be fine. So leave. But she wouldn't. And she said, because I love you, I will never let you live in a situation that I currently am living in. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to change her life and I'm going to do everything I can, not only to not be the man that my father is, but to be an example for others. And so that's what sparked my journey, was a promise I made to my mom to change her life because she wouldn't leave for a better situation for herself.
Wow, that is incredible. You transitioned from insurance and entrepreneurship into leadership coaching and podcasting. How did that leap happen?
So I've had a consulting business. So when I sold my insurance agency, I've been doing consulting for 10 years. And that's been not just folks in the insurance sector, but also Fortune 1000, Fortune 100 companies. And I realized that every great entrepreneur that I know is also a great leader, because it's never about the individual. So I started studying what made great leaders great, or good leaders good. And so that became the premise of what the book was about, and why I started that journey. All the lessons that I learned, but lessons that I learned from studying really good leaders. And to me, that's what it was about. So, the podcast came about because I just wanted to do more YouTube content. I'll be honest, Seth, I didn't listen to podcasts. I had 3 really good friends that were podcasters, and they were like, you should do podcasts. I said, nope, not going to do it. That's not who I am. But three of my mentors really shaped my framework into understanding that podcasting was a movement. So Les Brown was like, you should do podcasts. Damon John was like, dude, I have a podcast. You should do a podcast. And Robert Irvine said, just do it. And I said, no, but they all said, well, we'll be guests on your podcast. And I said, I will do a podcast because I don't know anyone that could have Damon John, Robert Irvine, and Les Brown as their guests. So I started it more to prove them wrong that podcasting is there, but people don't listen. And 20 million downloads later, here we are.
Yeah, well, number one, that's absolutely incredible that those were your mentors and offered to be guests. That's one heck of an overcoming of an objection. Congratulations on all of the success. You talk a lot about modern leadership. What do you think the biggest misconception is about leadership these days?
That it's the same as it was in the past. Seth, you and I grew up in an era where it was do as I say, not as I do.
Yes.
Right? Like we had leaders, whether they were parents in your community, teachers, whatever, that they could tell you something and you had to believe it. Not that they were wrong or anything. You just had to believe it. Well, today, before you can complete a sentence, people are Googling or putting into AI what you're saying to validate who you are and what you are. And so the biggest misconception is that we can lead the same way by doing as I say, not as I do, or not as I translate. And so I think that's the biggest misconception. I think the biggest miss in leadership today is emotional intelligence. I think, again, part of that do as I say, not as I do, you're missing that connection. People value trust. People value transparency more than they do 401k and benefit packages today.
Wow, I think that's 100% spot on. Can you walk us through the MICK Factor and why each pillar matters?
Yeah, so the MICK Factor, it's something that Les Brown kind of gave me, right? He was like, there's things that you've done in your life that got you to where you are. And so he made me break it down. And then he was like, you do realize that you just said your initials, right? And I was like, I did not, but then it made sense. And so the first one, the four pillars, again, my initials, but the mindset to dominate, right? When you do something, that's the M. You've got to have the mindset, but two, it should be to dominate, right? Like average is no longer a thing. You don't want to fit in. Like everything you do, you should do to truly dominate. And the second pillar, the I, is to invest in yourself. That doesn't mean financially. That just means you've got to be committed to you. If I'm not going to be the best person that I am and do the things that matter to always be the best person that I am, whether that's studying, researching, sometimes those are financial investments, but investments into coaching or development, or, hey, Seth has this program and I think that could help me go further. Let me invest in myself. I'm not investing in Seth. I'm investing in myself. And I think people miss that. The C is character. Your character speaks about you well before you utter a word. And I think people need to have core values about themselves, standards about themselves. And the K is keep going. Life is going to be rough. Seth, if it were easy, if I could write a 1-year plan and everything that I wrote in that plan happened, I would be a billionaire and so would everybody else in the world. The problem is, come February 1st, whatever I wrote in January is obsolete, but I'm going to keep going. And I think those four things, the mindset to dominate, investing in myself to be the best version of myself, making sure that my character and core values are strong, and no matter what, keep going. That's the recipe for success.
I love the framework. Leadership often means making tough decisions under pressure. What's a leadership lesson you learned the hard way?
That it's not about me. When I first started out this journey that we call leadership, I had a team of 300 people. After 90 days, Seth, I lost and had to replace about 70 people.
Wow.
In 6 months, I had to replace half the team. Because I wasn't overbearing. It wasn't that. I'm just type A. I'm a driver, right? Like working 70 hours a week used to mean nothing to me. And I couldn't understand, not that I wanted my team to ever work 70 hours a week. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm ultra competitive and I'm all about results. And so my drive was just, let's get it done. Let's go get the result. Let's win. but I didn't celebrate small wins. If someone struggled, instead of having a conversation or developing, I would just take that project and do it myself or reassign it to someone. And I was missing the boat. And so I had to learn that one, leadership is not about me. And I had to truly learn the emotional connection with your team and culture, because that's what truly runs your business, not you.
Amen. How do you help people discover their because?
Yeah, we start with your why, right? Simon Sinek, good friend of mine, said, start with your why. But when I ask you, Seth, but why is that your why? That sentence usually starts with, well, because, and I care about what you say about after your because. So what do I do to help people? And this is for everybody that's listening or watching. One, understand your why. Two, ask, why is that important to me? And then three, what are you going to dedicate to make sure that you always are held accountable to that because? To me, it's a 3-step process. What is your why? Why is that important? And what are you going to do to be held accountable to it?
I love it. What inspired you to write, talk a little bit about the books?
Yeah, how to be a good leader when you've never had one. First, I chose the word good instead of great because great is someone's opinion, right? We can all focus on being good, right? Being great is someone's opinion of you, or consistently being good can make you great. Where did it start? I asked my kids, tell me a good leader that you know when you can't name your dad, right? And they started naming social media influencers. And I said, wait, what about former presidents? What about former leaders? What about former military leaders? And they were like, I don't know. We don't hear about them. We don't see them. And I said, oh, this new generation. I'm not saying they're missing the boat, but we talked about leadership in school. We had classes in history on good leaders, whether it was US history, world history, whatever. They don't do that anymore. So social media has become the new encyclopedias, right? The new dictionary. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I wanted to write a book that would help people that maybe they haven't seen good leadership before, how to be good leaders, because we're in a world now where everyone's an entrepreneur, right? If you have a phone and a social media app, you can make money. You can be a creator. You can build a team. I think this year, the last fifth of boomers are going to retire, which means that there's a new wave of leaders that are coming in. And so maybe we haven't seen a blueprint of good leaders. And so that was the premise of writing the book.
Awesome. For someone, let's go back in time, for someone starting their leadership journey or someone who wants to renew their leadership journey, what is like a practical daily habit or mindset shift you recommend?
Being present. The best skill that a leader can have today is being present. We used to have this open door policy, right? Well, today, Seth, if someone walks into your open door, they're walking in with a resignation letter, right? If they have to come find you, it's never going to be good. And so I would say the first thing that every person today, if you're trying to take that initial step into leadership or you're trying to rediscover, is think about your presence. And we're in a world where we're hybrid and remote, right? You've got to make time to be available for your people and purposely, with intention, be available. I'm not talking about performance reviews or weekly sales meetings or operations meetings. I'm talking about getting to know Seth, getting to know Sally, getting to know Jimmy, getting to know Susie. Like, that matters. So build your presence policy first and foremost.
I like that. You've helped so many other people. What's your biggest challenge now?
My biggest challenge. So I'm huge on emotional intelligence, and I'm very transparent about this, right? The 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. But there's one that I coach myself on daily, and that's empathy, right? Empathy doesn't mean sympathy. Empathy means that I'm going to hear you and understand you. And again, I run 100 miles an hour today, Seth, right? I have to work on still understanding that everybody else doesn't. But not only that, but it's more my disposition, right? Like, I'm really good at self-awareness and self-regulation. I get that. I have to make sure my disposition is right. So when Seth is talking to me and I'm sitting there like, Seth, you're not giving me all that you can, or you're not doing it the way that I do, I can't let Seth see that on my face. So I work on my disposition with empathy more than anything.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Man, I love when people get it. When I get so many calls, so many emails from people that not just the book, but working with me or courses that I have or masterminds that I have, and they're like, "Make it clicked. I was able to do this into my life or into my business, and here's the result." And it's simple, right? Like most of the things that we need to do start with us, and we have to be committed for us to do the things that we need to do. And it's just that approach. And so when people take the time and say, all right, I got it, I'm going to implement this thing, like that's the most rewarding thing ever when the result happens.
Amen to that. For our viewers and listeners who want to learn more, where is the best place for them to go to learn about you, get the book, and listen to the podcast?
Yeah, I would say go to my main website, mickhuntofficial.com. There's going to be links to the book, links to the podcast. On social media, at Mick Unplugged on Instagram and Mick Hunt on LinkedIn. Those are the two that I'm most active on. And if there's anything I can ever do, like definitely reach out. My contact information is there.
All right. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable. This has been Seth Green with Mick Hunt from Mick Unplugged. Mick, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Seth.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.